Go.
Okay, this is a continuation of for CRIM 1B and 1C for theories of crimes. Okay, so last time we were discussing theories of why we have crime. So in Tagalog, bakit tayo may krimen? So we have three major theories, 2 and 3. So we have social, structural, or cultural. We also have psychological. Then we have ecological. Okay? So under structural, you have three theories. One, A, B, C. You have general strain. You have control. Then you have labeling. For psychological, you have two, A, B. Social learning, social cognition. Also, you have three. Then you have psychological disorder. Then for ecological as is. So let's recall. So when we say again social structural, we're talking about the society. How society is structured. So mean to say, kailangan ng society again maayos, organisado. Okay, when there is structure, automatically there should be functions. As a member of society, you must always have functions. When you say functions, you must have status and you must have a role. So for example, if your status is a student, that's your structure, definitely you have a function. So you have a role. So kung estudyante ka, kailangan nag-aaral ka. So kung ako teacher, professor, ang role ko is magturo. If you have structure and you have function, meaning to say the society must be organized. Paano kung hindi siya organized? Doon tayo magkakakalo. Kaya under general strain theory, when you say strain, basically you are stressed. There is stress. So for example lang ulit, recall lang, let's say, ako ito, then syempre marami kayong status. Marami kayong statuses sa buhay. So let's say you're also a father, you are also a what? A teacher, you are also a friend, you are also a son. So lahat yan statuses mo. Ang tanong ngayon, yung statuses mo also meron kayong role. Siyempre, ano ang role ng father, ano ang role ng anak, ng kaibigan, ng teacher. Let's say solo parent ka pa. Solo parent ka pa. The thing is with the status and role, or the thing is with the function is that minsan kasi all of this nagkakasabay-sabay, di ba? At kung nagkasabay-sabay itong statuses nyo, at the same time, the responsibility to do the role, you now gain stress. Okay? So the thing is kasi, the question now is the society providing you what you need to fulfill your function? Kumbaga, isa kang tatay, isa kang anak, isa kang teacher, isa kang friend, pero nabibigay ba talaga ng society, as an organized society, yung pangangailangan mo to fulfill your status or to fulfill your role? Kasi kung hindi, there's a tendency na magkaroon ka ng or gumawa ka ng isang krimen. For example, let's say you're a solo parent, pero the society cannot give you work, di ba? Hindi ka mabigyan ng trabaho, at the same time, anak ka pa. Kung sustentuhan mo pa yung nanay at tatay mo. Eh, as a teacher, hindi mataas ang sahod, so siguro may tendency talaga na magkaroon ka ng gumawa ka ng isang krimen. Nagigets ba? Okay? Like niyo yung video pag nagigets nyo, ha? Okay. Are we clear? Kaya na, in terms of general strain theory, if you feel stress, you cannot meet your needs as a member of society, there's a tendency na gumawa ka ng isa, krimen. Let's go with control. I think I did not discuss control for 1C and 1B. When you say control, according to control theory, okay, all humans are self-interested. That is why there is a need to control. Okay? Written here, according to control theory, we are all self-interested. Pag sinabing self-interested, as a human being, we all have this desires, di ba? May gusto tayo na makuha sa buhay natin. It's not a matter of wants, it's a matter of it's not a matter of needs, but it's a matter of wants, or vice versa, baliktad. We all have self-interest. May gusto talaga tayong makuha, maliban sa pangangailangan natin. Given yan. For example, if you're gonna say that the reason why you're studying is for your family, I think that's not a valid reason pa talaga. Kasi bakit? Siguro bang fall lang yun sa 1, 2, or 3 reasons. Pero ang pinaka-reasons kasi, bakit kayo nag-aaral is babalik at babalik sa sarili. Yeah? Bakit ka nag-aaral? Kasi gusto ko makatapos, gusto ko makakaroon ng trabaho. Sa'yo muna. Then, tsaka nyo matutulungan yung family. Ganun naman talaga ang ganun talaga ang flow. Kaya nga, the thing is for control. Since you are all self-interested, kailangan siya ngayon kontrolin. Imagine if the society or if the individuals have their way in terms of what they want. Lahat ng gusto nila, nagagawa nila. If you could remember the Purge na palabas, if you're familiar, anong story ng Purge? The story of Purge is that everyone is given, let's say, a day that they could do anything that they want. Imagine niyo, lahat tayo, yung gusto nating magawa for a day, no laws, no rules, no order, you can do it for that day. Imagine, syempre, if you watch the movie, there was chaos, there was killing, there was stealing. Kasi everything that you want, everything that you are self-interested, you can do it. Diba? So nakakatakot lang in a way na lahat ng gusto nyo gawin. Kaya nga, there's a need for you to have control. Same with the Purge. You would not agree that if someone wants to kill you, you would agree the other one wants to kill you too. If the other one wants to steal, the same time, gusto mo rin bang nakawan ka? Hindi. Kaya nga, there's a need to control. Okay ba tayo doon? Okay? Like niyo yung video, ha? Okay? Now, you have two types of control. You have self-control. Then you have social control. When you say self-control, this is a matter of characteristics, it's a matter of traits. That despite that you're given the platform or the temptation na nandyan na yan, nabibigay na sa'yo lahat ng gusto mo, the question is now, can you control yourself? For example, naglalakad ka, tapos may wallet na nandun nakalapag sa sahig, naglalakad ka. The question is, do you have that control? Kukunin mo yung wallet or ibibigay mo sa authority kung saan pwedeng isauli yung wallet. Di ba? It's a matter of now, question if you can control yourself to get it or to do the right thing. Okay? When you say social control, this is a matter of laws and rules. Okay? It's a matter of laws and rules. Kaya nga, control theory is a matter of social control in majority. Kasi we have our wants, we have our desires, but the thing is, it's always limited. Gustuhin nyo man siyang gawin, pero you have to obey some rules and you have to obey some laws. Gusto mo ng pera, you cannot steal money talaga easily. Diba? Kasi nga, you still have laws. And at the same time, papasok si self-control. For example, balik tayo sa situation ni, let's say, ni Sir Santiago na lang to. Ni Sir Dan. Okay? Father, son, friend, teacher. Okay? O let's say na wala ng trabaho. Wala ng trabaho. Okay? Tapos na binubuhay pang pamilya. Tapos may anak pa siyang isa. Bla 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 bla. Kung general straight theory tayo, hindi nabigay ng society yung karapat-dapat para kay Sir. Para magampanan niya yung tungkulin niya, magampanan yung mga statuses, kaya may tendency gumawa ng isang krimen. Okay tayo doon. For control theory, let's say, na wala ng trabaho, okay, nagkaroon pa ng ibang situation pa, ang tanong ngayon, anong gagawin ni Sir para magampanan itong mga to? Magnanakaw. May tendency talaga siya magnakaw, may tendency talaga siya gumawa ng krimen. But the thing is kasi, that Sir Santiago has self-control. That despite na maraming pagkukulang, ang dami na kailangan gawin. Di ba? Meron ba siyang control na sa isip niya, ito pa rin talaga ang dapat gawin. Hindi pa rin ako magnanakaw. Hindi pa rin ako mga apak ng ibang tao kasi I still have self-control. Or the other way around. Or, he would abide to the social rules. Diba? Kasi may sinasaalang-alang pa rin akong batas at may sinasaalang pa rin akong rules ng society to control myself to do what must be done to avoid crimes. I get you back. Okay? Kaya, the thing is kasi, with control, kailangan lang siya kontrolin to avoid any crimes. Now, may question lang sa control, may issues lang talaga. Diba may tendency na pag sobrang higpit, ito, kung isipan nyo, di ba bang sobrang higpit or sobrang control, di ba, there's a tendency na mas gumawa ba ng krimen? Or hindi. For example, let's say your parents are strict. Di ba? Kung ang parents mo ba sobrang strict, is there a tendency na mas gumawa ka pa na krimen? Some would say yes, some would say no. Depende kasi sa self-control. Ay, nagigets nyo ngayon, di ba? For example, sobrang strict ng parents. Tapos ang mangyari is that, di ba, gumagawa ka ngayon ng way just to get your desires, your interest, para magawa mo yun. For example, tatakas ka patago, magsisinungaling ka. Kaya nga, somehow, rules or controls should be in balance. In a way, di ba, still, we are getting our desires, we're still getting our needs. Pero again, as a society would say, you have rules and you have laws to follow. So are we clear with control? Bilis lang to, wala nang pausap eh. Sarili ko lang. Okay, next. Kaya pa? Nakabidyo to. Hello. Next. Next is we have labeling. Even we already discussed labeling. When you say labeling, you're naming it. Hindi ko na na-discuss dito, I think is control. So you're naming it. Okay, you're putting judgment, you're putting names with regards to a person or a thing. Again, labeling has an advantage and labeling has a disadvantage. When you say an advantage of labeling, we need what? Specifics. Description. In terms of crimes, or in terms of the criminal justice system, we need proper labels. Okay? If the person did a rape, did murder, did theft, kailangan talaga siyang i-label. Kasi kung ano man ang label sa kanya, ganun ang procedure ng kaso, or ganun ang procedure ng kanyang trial, o ganun ang procedure ng justice system natin. Kaya there's a need to be labeled. Kung nakagawa ka ng krimen, tapos hindi mo alam, or the persons or the authority doesn't know what crimes specifically, specifics that you do without label, magkakalituhan tayo. Murder ba ginawa niya? Rape ba ginawa niya? Homicide ba ginawa niya? Domestic violence ba ginawa niya? If there's no label, definitely there will be confusions. So we need label as much as possible pa rin. But the thing is, label kasi has also a negative effect to anyone if it is misproperly used. Okay? Kaya it could affect personalities, it could affect characteristics, it could also affect lives of someone or anyone. For example, let's say that the person was labeled a rapist, or let's say an addict, then undergo rehabilitation for, let's say, 1 year. Definitely, the person also wants change, gusto niya talaga magbago sa buhay niya. Kaso nga lang, the label of an addict is already attached to the certain person. Let's say, nag-relapse na. When you say relapse, gumaling na. Nawala na, gumaling na. Then, pagbalik niya sa community, pagbalik niya sa family, pagbalik niya sa anywhere he belongs to, kada babalik siya, then ano lalabas? Yeah, there's already a tag or there's already a label. Gusto niya magbago, di ba? Pero narinig niya, ay si addict, bumalik na. Yan na naman si addict, ingat kayo dyan, addict yan. Ingat kayo dyan, rapist yan. Di ba? The person wants to change. Then imagine a person wanting to change. But there's already a tag, there's already a label. Do you think it's easy for that person na magbago? Di ba? If there's continuous judgment, there's continuous labels or names like that, it could have a negative effect to the person. Yung relapse niya, baka mawala, bumalik ulit in terms of doing crimes. Diba? Patunayan ko na lang, addict talaga ako. Patunayan ko na lang na rapist ako. Kaya for example, yung ng hostage, if you could recall the hostage the taker sa mall sa San Juan, that the hostage taking took 10 hours. Now regardless of the motive ng hostage taker, well, let's say, nakulong siya for a year, then eventually babalik siya sa community, mag-a-apply siya ulit ng trabaho. Siyempre, the record already would appear na nag-hostage siya or may ginawa siyang krimen. May label na siya. Do you think if you're the owner of a company, then nag-apply siya, security company, nag-apply siya ng security, tapos may record siya, do you think i-hire niyo siya? Hindi. Kasi may label na siya na may gano'n siya ginawa krimen. Kaya mabigat sa part ng someone already labeled as that. So, it has a both positive and have a negative advantage in terms of labeling, in terms of connection sa isang krimen. Kaya medyo nakakaawa yung hostage. Baka may hirapan talaga siya makabalik ng trabaho. Kasi kung may record na siya ng gano'n, talagang hirap. Okay? So, that's social control. Labeling. So, again, you have 3 for social cultural. General strain, control, labeling, and ayun na yun. So the next one is psychological or socio-cultural. Wait lang, pakakapagod.
Go.
Okay, next. Next is yung psychological. Okay? When you say psychological, psychology, you're pertaining to human behavior and mental process. As is na yan, as a recall. Kaya you can never take away the study of criminology with psychology. Some of them are still partners. Okay? Let's start with social learning. So letter A. Social learning. Let's define this first. Let's define first learning. Okay? Those who still recall what's learning. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior due to practice and experiences. Okay? Now, there's some irony here, or oxymoron ang tawag. Kasi you have permanent and you have change. Pero the two can be justifiable because of the word relative. The word kasing relative. Okay? When we say learning, okay, learning is something that is not done in the room. Kaya nga, when I say to the class, I never ask to the class, kung may natutunan ba kayo, I never do that. Kasi it's much applicable to us kung may tanong kayo at the end of the class. Bakit? Kasi when you say learn, was there a change in behavior? For example, after this lecture, after you watch the video, was there a change in behavior? Kung baga pagtapos nyo mapanood yung video, sabi nyo sa sarili nyo, ay nagbago buhay na ako. Bago na, para kung bago, I feel like new, wala namang ganon, di ba? Malabong mangyari yun. Kasi nga, there's no learning yet. Kaya nga tanong, is there a relatively permanent change in behavior? Kung baga, let's say, this is the timeline. Let's say, dati kind ka, mabait ka, pero pagdating sa dulo, you are now already violent. Diba? Dati kind ka, pero sa pagdaan ng panahon, there's already violence. Ano nangyari? Kasi there was a change na somehow we think it's already permanent. Kasi when you say relative, we need to say there is enough amount of time for a certain behavior to change from kindness to being violent. For example, for 6 years, because of something that happened in 6 years' time, to explain the relative, from being kind, because of 6 years, to become now more violent. Like, I hope you get the point, di ba? Kaya sama, nagmumukha siyang permanent. Parang ang tagal-tagal niya ng ganon. Because that happens for 6 years. Now, the question is, what caused the change? What caused the permanent change? It's because of practice and because of experience. There was continuous practice, there was continuous experience that allows changes on certain behaviors. For example, let's say that, for example, boys, marunong ba kayo mag-basketball, di ba? Na nangyari, let's say, napilay ka for 2 years. Napilay ka for 2 years at pinawalan ka talaga ng doktor maglaro. Ano nangyari? The question is now, after 2 years ba, you don't know now to play ba basketball? Hindi ka na talaga marunong ng basketball. Siyempre, the answer is no. After 2 years, you can still play basketball pero not on the same conditions as before. Why? Bakit? Kasi there was practice. Pinarapis mo ng gano'ng katagal yung paglaro ng basketball and somehow your body becomes condition about it, na-condition na yung katawan, na kahit sabihin mo, hindi ka na nag-play for 2 years, kasi pinagawa na ako ng doktor, pero pag bumalik ka after 2 years, your body is still there. The game or the playing of basketball is still there. Nasa katawan mo pa rin, kaso nga lang, hindi na siya same as before. Kasi bakit? Your body was still conditioned. Condition ka, kung hanapin pa rin ang katawan. That's when we play practice. At the same time, you experience it. Experience mo kasi. Experience can be direct or indirect. By careless kung anong experience yan. Di ba? Direct or indirect experience yan. But still, with the two, definitely there could be changes in behavior. For example, gusto nyo magbago, it still requires only practice and experience. Gusto nyo maging bookish, for example, baka sa isip lang. Pero if you're not doing anything, di ba, hindi ka nagbabasa talaga, you're not doing any practice, you're not directly reading a book, definitely there will be no changes. Kaya gano'ng katagal namin yung practice and experience is a matter of a relative time. Gano'ng katagal? Di ba? Gano'ng katagal? Kaya nga, for example, let's say, bakit biglang nag-switch isang mabait na tao sa pagiging violent ng isang tao? Because somehow there would be an experience and at the same time it was practiced, a certain behavior was practiced, kaya at the end, there was violence. Diba? For example, ano kaya yung magandang experience na bigla kang magiging violent eh? Diba? Pasok tayo sa social learning. Yung social learning na talaga. Somehow, so we could acquire experience or practice for merely observation. Mag-observe ka lang, you can attain any changes in behavior as long as the change gives you reward or gives you punishment. If you get the reward, you change. If you get punishment, you stop the behavior. Ganun na naman kasimple yan. You stop the behavior. I hope everyone is following. For example, let's say, bata, tapos ang pamilya talaga is mahirap, then the means para makakuha ng pera is magnakaw. Ano yan, you have common stories na gano'n, di ba? Now, let's say, naobserbahan ngayon ng bata by learning lang. Observational learning ng bata. Na okay, ginagawa ni mama ni papa, tapos pag ginagawa ni mama ni papa, nakakakain kami. We get what we need. Di ba? Tinaray niya one time, there's no practice yet, ha? Tinaray niya ng experience, tinaray niya experience, nakanakaw siya, malaki-laking halaga, nakuha siya ng reward. Definitely, nung nakuha siya ng reward, there's a tendency that the behavior is to be practiced na, to be continued na. Nagnakaw, kasi nakakakuha siya ng reward. So eventually, isang mabait na bata, naging magnanakaw at the end, kasi there was reward, there was continuous practice, and there was continuous experience. And let's say nahuli siya. One time nahuli siya. Una niyang ginawa. Do you think i-continue niya yung ganong behavior? Definitely hindi na. Depende pa rin. Pero there's a tendency that the behavior is already stopped. May stop na kasi nagkaroon siya na punishment. Let's say nakulong siya for 6 months. Kasi magbata siya or what, or naandun siya ng DSWD for years. Definitely, mawawala yung behavior. Mag-change ulit. You getting my point? Kaya nga, in terms of crimes, you can learn a crime. That's the thing. You can learn in doing a certain crime. As long as the behavior or the criminal behavior gives you rewards or gives you punishment. But it requires a good form of what? Good form of environment. Kailangan talaga may environment. Malaking factor yung environment. Kaya if you're gonna ask if criminals are born, no, they are not born under the theory. Criminals are made. But in terms of the people around them or by the environment they around them. It's a matter of what is experienced and what is being practiced. For example, like dito sa kindness and violence. It's an abuse. Kaya pala bigla siya naging violent. Okay? He was abused and he was exposed to a certain environment na nakaka-experience siya ng abuse for 6 years. So definitely there's a tendency na pwede niyang gayahin, pwede siyang gumante, kaya maging violent na rin siya. Diba? Kaya nga, a social learning can be a powerful way to explain criminals. Ano ba nangyari o ano ba talaga yung environment na kinakabilangan ng isang criminal? Or what happened within that environment to explain why does the criminal do such behavior. For example, rapists. Bakit magre-rape? Una-una kasi there's a reward. Ano po ang reward? There's sexual satisfaction, nasa-satisfy ang libido, di ba? Pero let's say, wala namang makuha. Do you think someone would continue doing rape? Di ba? It's a matter of exposing the pleasure. It's a matter of releasing the arousal or the satisfaction. Kasi kung wala naman, we will not continue a certain behavior. Diba? Kaya to say it's a matter of choice, but it's a matter of reward and punishment. So okay tayo doon ha, may tanong. Kaya kung gusto nyo magbago, practice. Pero huwag maging criminal ha. Diba practice? Okay? A good form of behavior, not a criminal form of behavior. Let's go with social cognition. May panoorin nyo, wala kapagod yung effort ko ha. Maawa kayo sa akin ha. Okay? Let's go with social cognition. This is a connection between the two. When you say cognition, this is the entire mental process. It's the entire mental process. When you say the entire mental process, everything that is done in the mind. Okay? Everything is done in the mind. Okay? It's the entire mental process. So when you think, when you remember, when you recall, that's part of cognition. Okay? Now, how do we connect social cognition to criminal? Mamaya na. Pero, But in terms of the mental process, it's a matter of how we react to certain environment. So how do you react to a certain environment? For example, let's have an example dun sa nag-commit ng suicide dyan sa may City Hall. Diba? Now, let's have an analysis. Let's be open about this. Let's say, dalawa sila, bilang sila isa. Tapos, ang perspective is that both of them has a family problem. Sir, magkaiba naman talaga siguro. Hindi, let's say, magkahiwala yung parents, may kabit parehas, yun yung family problem. Same na same, dalawa silang tao, same na same. Pero yung isa, nag-back out. Yung isa, really committed the suicide. Sa tingin nyo, ano ang difference nila? The difference is how do they react to the environment. It's a matter of cognition. Diba? For example, yung isa depressed na, yung isa suicidal na, pero the other one is still coping. Kinakaya niya pa, nakangiti pa siya. It's a matter of reaction. Saan sila nagkaiba? Nagkaiba sila in terms of their cognitive or cognitive powers or cognitive processes or the mental process. Nagkaiba sila in a matter of perception. When you say perception, it's what? It's a viewpoint. Point of view pala. Point of view. Every cognition arrives to a certain perception. Or when you say perception, it's a point of view. How do you see things? Okay, how do you interpret things? How you judge things? Or how do you react to a certain environment? That is a matter of perception already. The thing is with perception, if you have a certain perception that, excuse me, that leads to a certain behavior. Yun ang problema dyan eh. Basta mayroon kang isang perception sa isang bagay, automatically, it can be manifested in your behavior. Hindi pwedeng hindi. That's the process eh. For example, if you think my class is boring, if you think my class is walang kakwenta-kwenta, that's your perception, di ba? Definitely, I could see it in your behavior. Wala ka sa klase, lagi kang absent, lagi kang late. Kasi that's your perception. Or vice versa, if you see my class as exciting, not boring, or the other way around, definitely I could see your participation, your activeness in class. Nandito ka sa klase. Kasi that is your perception. You getting my point? Yan, the power of perception lies on behavior. Kung ayaw mo sa akin, yung tingin mo sa akin, malamang lalayuan mo. Same with other people. Okay? Now, how do you now connect this to either forms of crime? Criminal behavior kasi is a matter of perception in terms of a person. Bakit ka gagawa ng isang krimen? Bakit mo gagawin yung isang krimen? It's a matter of interpretations kasi. Okay? It's a matter of your perception about the person, about the world, about reality, or about that is anything happening around you. Pasok mo sa social learning, pasok mo yung dalawa, pag i-connect natin sa social learning and cognition. Diba? Pasok mo yung dalawa. If you have a certain experience on a certain thing, definitely there is a certain perception already. For example, let's talk about rape. Who here would agree with me that rape should be put or should be under death penalty? Definitely marami because rape is a heinous crime, di ba? Maganda nang bawasan sila, di ba? Maganda na ang katapat ng ginawa nila is kamatayan talaga. But definitely some of you would answer, no, it's not for heinous crimes. We need to give the criminals or the rapists a chance to change. May mga ganong sagot eh. Bakit? It's a matter of perception. Ay, napasok natin sa experience. Pero let's say, if you're gonna ask someone who directly experience the word rape, siya mismo, naranasan niya yung salitang rape, at tanong ko siya, ikaw ba, papayag ka na for death penalty ang rape, sa tingin nyo anong sagot niya? There's a big chance na ang sagot niya is yes. Kasi nga, it's a matter of perception already. Naranasan niya kasi mismo yung salitang rape. Diba? So yung perception niya sa word na yun, definitely was affected by the learning. Kaya nga perception, factors, nakikita niyo po sulat ko, factors affecting perception. You have two factors affecting perception. Number one is learning. Number two is emotions or motivations. Hindi pwede nagkakalayo yan, dalawa na yan in terms of learning. Kaya going back to learning, if you experience something in terms of the environment, definitely there would be a certain perception. Same with the one being raped. Victim to. Total, may subject tayong victimology. Yung victim Kaya ang hirap baguhin nung thinking ng victim sa mga rapists kasi siya mismo na-experience niya yung what? Yung rape mismo. Diba? It's really hard to change a perception of someone. Diba? Ang hirap makipagtalo sa ganun Diba? Kung meron siyang ganun talagang experience, natutunan niya yung ganung bagay sa kanyang buhay. Let's go with emotions and motivations. For example, let's talk about motivations. Let's say, may nahuli kayo sa 7-Eleven. Dalawang magnanakaw. Nakaw ng Slurpee. May joke lang. Nakaw ng pera. Nakaw ng pera sa cash register. Nakaw. Nahuli mo si magnanakaw A, at the same time, nahuli mo si magnanakaw B. Nung nahuli mo si magnanakaw A, ang sabi mo nung tinanong mo siya, bakit niya nagnakaw? Ang sinabi niya, kasi wala kaming makain. Kailangan namin ng pambili ng pagkain. Kaya kami nagnakaw. Yun yung dahilan ni magnanakaw A. Dahil kay magnanakaw B. Nung nahuli mo siya, diba? Tinanong mo siya, ba't ka nagnakaw? Ay, gusto ko lang ng pera Wala akong pera. Here's my question. Sino kukulong nyo? Si A, si B. Siyempre, hindi ko alam, diba? Kasi wala kayo sa harapan. Pero majority kasi, if I'm always stimulating that analogy or that question, is that mostly would answer B. Bakit? May sagot kasi yung motibo ni B para talagang gusto niya talagang gumawa ng krimen. Yung motibo kasi ni B is karuman-duman talaga, parang wala siyang pakialam sa ibang tao at sarili niya lang. B, majority would say B ang ikukulong at si A hindi. Pero kung tinignan nyo, regardless kung si A or si B, ano man dapat gawin? Para sila ikulong. Kasi the thing is a matter of, it's a theft Talagang, it's a crime already. Pero bakit yung iba, may tendency maawa kay A at hindi maawa kay B? Because it's a matter of motivation. Diba? Yung motibo kasi nadala tayo kaya nagbago yung perception. Naawa kayo, somehow you felt pity kay A, kaya somehow nagdalawang isip, may tendency, pero as criminology student, you have to do the right thing. Kailangan din talaga sila hulihin. Kailangan din talaga silang they have the proper processes in terms of that. Pero kung let's say, naawa ka sa motibo niya, diba? Ayaw na nila kita hulihin. Pero pulis ako, diba? Pero hindi na sige, makakawala na lang kita. Pero you know that. You have standards, diba? You have protocols in terms of that, diba? So what would be the protocol? Would you follow the protocol or would you follow the perception that was affected by the motivation? Motivation is a big factor in terms of things. How you say things is basically how you are motivated by it. Diba? Kung itong dahilan ginagawa mo isang bagay, yun ang tingin mo sa bagay na yun. Diba? If you see learning, so if you see study as a matter of learning, that is how you see study. Or, na-yun ba sa gano'n? Okay na yun. Lalang example. Ano to? Impromptu to, hoy. Okay? Emotions. Ganun na kanina. Nadala ka ngayon because of emotions. Diba? It's a big thing in terms of perception talaga. Kaya nga, I always say to my classmates, may Gen Sci, may the other subjects, emotions is a big thing in terms of thinking properly or in terms of perception. Well, emotions are valid. Always valid. Pero to a point somehow kasi, it clouds certain points of thinking. Diba? Kaya nga, you never, I always repeat this sa mga nakarinig na dati, you never make promises if you're too happy. Diba? And you never make decisions if you're too angry. Diba? Kasi in the end, you have secondary feelings, you have secondary emotions of regrets or guilt. Kasi nga, nasira kagad yung perception because of a certain motivation. For example, sobrang galit mo. Ano yung binatong salita, bago kagad ng perception sa tao. Pero perception mo sa tao is napakabait, napakaganda, napakabuti. Pero may isang ginawa lang, sobrang emotion ng galit, nagbago kagad yung perception. Same if you're too happy, diba? Then you tend to make promises at the end of the day, madaling utuin ang mga sobrang masasaya. Diba? Kalibre ka, madali kasi their perception already is clouded. Tama, diba? Okay? Kaya nga, in terms of crimes, diba, what motivated a certain crime is a matter of perception. What motivated them to do the crime that is their current perception. Diba? Ginawa ko tong isang krimen na to kasi ganito, ganyan. Motibo, yun ang tingin niya ngayon sa buhay. Ginawa ko to sa sobrang galit, that's the perception already. Ginawa ko to kasi pinakatasan ako ganito, that is the perception already. Kaya nga, a social cohesion in terms of crime can be also helpful in terms of why is there crime. Naintindihan naman. Like nyo ha, like nyo. First to, post mo. Okay.
Go.
Next is psychological disorder. I'll explain this later naman. In the previous, susunod na video na lang natin. Kasi this is a separate topic. So after few weeks of crime, I'll be discussing psychological disorder. Kasi usually, we have to think that most crimes are done because of a certain psychological disorder. Diba? You can watch news knowing someone committed homicide because of a certain mental disorder. So we have to elaborate further on that. Another one, for example, domestic violence. Usually it's done with someone with aggressive tendency, antisocial personality disorder, or what. May mga ganun. So kailangan natin siya i-discuss ng separate. Pero psychological disorders kasi, mental disorders are common in terms of crimes as well. And they have also different treatments for the criminals and at the same time victims under such reasons why we have crimes. So let's go with ecological. Excuse me. When we say ecological, somehow this is to sum up everything. Summary na rin naman ng lahat ko. Kasi for example, if you're gonna do an investigation, mag-investigate ka, I think the most appropriate approach here is an ecological approach. Most fields kasi, social sciences field, use ecological approach in terms of understanding a certain behavior. Bakit? When we say ecological approach, we're talking about the social environment. Pero not the social environment lang per se. We're also discussing here the individual. Individual din kasi. For example, dito, nakita nyo na naman yung social environment. This one is a matter of individual talaga. Pero if you connect the two, ang kababaksakan nyo is ecological. Under ecological, an individual have different social environment that somehow affected a certain behavior. Or, meron na talaga sa individual na there is a tendency na maging ganun talaga siya. Okay? So what are these social environments? We have 5, I think, social environments. Maliban sa 1. Maliban sa 1. Okay? So first is you have biogenetics. You have familial. You have cultural. These are factors. Factors. Okay. Then you have life space. Then you have resources and opportunities. So, starting from familial, cultural, life space, and resources and opportunities are already social environments. Biogenetics is part of the individual. When you say biogenetics, you're talking about biology. We're talking about genetics. Meaning to say this is your physical characteristics. Or in other terms, these are traits or characteristics that you inherited coming from your parents. You know that okay, marami niya. For some of the physical features, some behaviors, some dispositions na somehow same with your parents. You can notice that naman. When you say familiar factors, you're talking about your family. Your first degree family and at the same time your extended family. Okay, what's an extended family? Yeah, your lolo, your lola, your titas, your titos, your first degree family are what? Your mother, father, your brother, your sister, that's it. Yeah, ganon. Okay? For cultural, this is extra family or this is a relationship that is outside the family. So including peers, including your work, your classmates, the community, the church, that is your cultural factors. When you say life space is your physical environment. When you say physical environment, what is the situation of your current physical environment? Are you living in a squatters area? Are you living in a slum area? Are you living in a village? Di ba? Pag yayamanin, naka-village. Do you live in a kingdom? Or gano'n. Life space, di ba? Life space. Is your life space conducive? Katira-tira ba siya? Is it clean? Is it nice? Or what? It's dirty, basura siya. Okay? Something like that. Then when you say resources and opportunities, I'm talking about here the safety and security. Meaning to say, you're living in a certain life space is the need for money, for security, safety, power, achievement is given. Do you have the right resources or are you given the right opportunities for your wants, for your needs, for your desires? Diba? Now what's the point? If you take all of this in one, definitely there's a tendency for a certain crime. Ang point lang dito kasi, you don't look at it in one factor na, okay, depende sa perception, depende sa environment, depende sa experience. No, you have to look into everything. For example, we're talking about suicide kanina. You know that suicide is also known as a victimless crime. When you say victimless crime, inuulit ko po, it's what? Wala naman talagang biktima. Kasi when you say crime, it should cause certain harm to other people. But at point, suicide doesn't cause harm to other people. Don't take it literally. The harm only cause to yourself. Doon lang naman eh. Pero kaya it's called a victimless crime. But it's still a crime. For example, how would you understand someone, I'm still speaking in psychologically lang, pero punta tayo na in terms of criminology. For example, suicide, how would you understand suicide lang? In terms of ecological, you have to look at everything. For example, how about sa family? Ano bang meron sa family niya? Some of that causes the suicide. Maybe there was problem in the family, broken family, common naman yan. But sa family yun. Baka kasi may factor pa sa cultural, for example, the peers, school, church. Dagdag mo pa yung life space. Siyempre sa nakatira. Anong current environment niya? Conducive ba? Squatter ba? Magulo ba yung environment niya? Katira-tira ba? Or maayos naman? And at the same time, you have to look at the resources, the opportunities. Diba? The school, diba? If it is working, or yung work, nabibigay ba yung trabaho talaga, yung dapat kitain, is there safety, is there security? Kasi kung hindi, baka may tendency na may suicide talaga. Ay, gets nyo ako? Right, sir, how about the biogenetics? Did you know that depression is inherited by first degree family. There's a tendency. For example, parents, tatay niya, is what? Nung na-depress pala dati, tapos sama namanan niya, may tendency ngayon na maging suicidal kasi siya. Now, what's the point here? The point is, guys, there's always a disposition. Meron na kasi tayong disposition. The thing is now, you are just required now the proper conditioning or the proper environment para kumbaga, namana mo na yung depression, you only need what? You need a proper trigger. It's like a bomb. Ano na yung bomba, trigger na lang kailangan mo, pili ka na lang ng trigger. Is it the family? Is it the peers? Is it the friends? Is it the workmates? Blah, 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 blah. Is it the life space? Or is it the lack of safety, security, work? Diba? The need to achieve, the need to success. Wala niyan. That's the right factor para ma-activate si biogenetics and at the same time it would lead to suicide, etc., etc. Same with crimes. Diba? You're already disposition to be violent. You just need the proper ingredients to trigger it. Ang tanong ngayon, saan? Sino sa mga to? Diba? Kaya nga if you're gonna investigate something, it's vital na you understand the different social environment to understand a certain individual. For example, addict, nag-relapse. Isama natin ngayon na nag-relapse na okay naman sa rehab center, he was fine, he was doing great in the rehab center. Kaso nga lang, yung relapse, nawala, bumalik, ang tanong ngayon, bakit siya bumalik? Pag samasamahin niyo lahat, may labeling kasi sa loob ng family. Pangalawa, yung life space. Puro adik ang kasama. Walang opportunity para magtrabaho talaga siya ng maayos. Diba? Ngayon wala nang self-control. Balik ka sa self-control. How would you control yourself if you're given such factors, sama mo ko ng friends, na mga siraulo, di ba, na sigatok dito, sigatok doon, gamit ka pa din, after na nag-relapse. Di ba? It's already in the physical characteristics that you are an addict. Nagamit ka na pumasok ng drugs sa loob ng katawan mo. Pero these factors, I'm telling you, could get you back to a criminal behavior na ginagawa mo dati. You getting my point? Kaya nga it's very important to understand ecological, especially the social environment that could give you the proper ingredients. Why would you do such crimes? Ano yan eh, it's a matter of not looking it on one factor alone. Hindi pwede. Marami talagang factors to contribute why you would have. Kaya we're gonna say crimes is only for poverty. Ito pala mo, resources. You have a choice naman not to do crimes in terms of poverty. Pero depende kasi yan sa factors eh. Na-learn mo sa pamilya mo, mahirap ka, na-learn mo sa pamilya mo na ito lang ang paraan. Social learning yun, pamilya pa rin eh. Na-learn mo, na-experience mo sa factors mo, okay, ganito gawin natin para mabuhay tayo, buwan tayo ng krimen. It's still the factors, the social environment. Diba? Pero in terms of biogenetics kasi, you're just required a proper disposition. Disposition na tayo, meron na talaga tayong gano'n, namana na natin yan eh. Ang tanong na lang, ano yung trigger? Ano yung right conditions? Ang term doon is the right conditions. Are we given the right conditions for it? If you have the right conditions for it, like the environmental factors, I repeat, okay, definitely there's a tendency to have crimes. Malalaman nyo yan when we get to one by one sa crimes. When we get to homicide, anong cause ng homicide, ng violence, ng addicts, di ba, ng psychological disorders, we will get to that. Babalikan nyo dito. So again, these are your theories of crime. So why we commit crimes, or some explanations why we commit crimes. The next video that I'm going to post is psychological disorder. We need to understand again psychological disorder on a broad sense. Okay? Kasi hindi siya pwede isama rito right now because ang dami nila. You have depression, you have schizophrenia, you have personality disorders, and you have intellectual or learning disabilities. In terms of how are those mental disorders are connected to certain crimes. So, yun po. So, yun na yun. Thank you.